Well, the day after the official Lin Kuei trailer for Mortal Kombat 1 has certainly left me thinking about a fair few things. The big one from my side being that SEKTOR is now officially confirmed via a cameo fighter, and while it's unclear if SEKTOR will be main roster as well, we know that at least in this form, SEKTOR is playable. Now, the first thing I've heard from a lot of people, especially yesterday, was how can I be excited with SEKTOR being a cameo only? First of all, we don't know that for an absolute fact yet, as obviously the full roster is yet to be confirmed. However, it's safe to assume that if they were base roster, we probably would have seen it in the Lin Kuei trailer. Now, when it comes to how I feel about it, I gotta say, I don't mind, and that might shock some people, and I totally understand that some folks are gonna be disappointed that their favorite character is only a cameo or whatever else. Everyone has their own value system in a fighting game, and enjoyment of a game can very much come down to the characters you like to play. That's been the case for many, many years. Now, the reason I personally do not mind if SEKTOR is a cameo only is the fact that I've played this game enough already over the 3.5 days of a stress test to know just how much of an impact cameo fighters make in the match itself. I think one huge takeaway is that, for me, a cameo can be more important than the character you're using as a base in the first place, and if I get to play as SEKTOR in every single match with a different base character and a different strategy, that works totally fine for me as well. That is, as I've said, my own personal take on Mortal Kombat 1, and I totally get that people are going to feel differently, because as I said, everyone has their own values for different fighting games based on characters, right? That's just the way it is. But if you've already gathered from the tone of this video, it's a very informal sit down and chat, and that kind of brings me to the topic of SEKTOR in Mortal Kombat 1. I want to sit down, talk about my experience with the character across the many games, and kind of theory craft what he could have when it comes to cameo attacks. We've only seen one move so far, and that's the teleport launcher, which looks like it's going to be a summon. A summon being where your character is stuck in place for a bit, but obviously in the trailer we've seen that launch can be extended off, and he's not the only character we've seen that from. Kung Lao's spin is able to do something very, very similar. We've even seen Scorpion Assist come in with some kind of launcher inspired by his Mortal Kombat 9 back to, and the whole point of this video is, let's sit and talk about what we could see from him. I'm really excited to dive into it, and to be honest, I didn't expect my favorite character to be in this game at all, so let's sit, discuss, and theory craft. I guess the first thing to talk about is what makes SEKTOR who he is mechanically. SEKTOR has always been some kind of ranged character, but not just range. I think when you look at the most memorable tools that this character has, it's the flame burner, it's the teleport punch, it's the missiles, and the missiles are the biggest one for me. Now, I'm going to be completely safe and assume there is going to be some kind of missile-based cameo, but the first question is, what kind? SEKTOR has had all sorts of projectiles over the various games. He's shot a missile straight forward, he's fired missiles from up into the air and they land back down to allow for some setup potential, and for me personally, his most iconic is the homing missile. Now, of all of the different missiles that SEKTOR has had across all of the different games, I do not think there is going to be a homing missile cameo assist. It would be far too strong, if it's a traditional one anyway, where you simply fire out a homing missile whenever you want, and because the cameo recharge is so fast, I kind of imagine it would be way too bloated of a tool. The homing missile is really good for keep away, it's good at controlling the opponent, but if you're looking to rush down and mix up with some kind of setup or pressure up close, the missile can sometimes be a free neutral button. So do I think that's going to be in the game? Probably not. I think it's a much safer bet that if SEKTOR is going to have some kind of setup/keep away based assist, I think it's more likely to be the up missile. It's already been established animation-wise that in this game, SEKTOR fires the missiles from the back shoulder, or just behind the character, and that's more akin to Mortal Kombat X. Triborg did the exact same thing. We could definitely see that, and if it exists, I would love to see what kind of pressure or setup this could absolutely bring, because if it's an ambush and not a summon, if the character is able to move freely while Sektor comes out to perform the up missile, that is going to be unbelievable for pressure up close. We've already seen characters like Liu Kang end a combo and bicycle kick into Jax, ground pound up close. You could accomplish a very similar armor-breaking, multi-hitting goal with an up missile as well. Of all the moves I hope the character has, I got to admit, that is the move I'm looking out for. I hope it's there. I could be completely wrong with this as well, and if Sektor has a missile cameo, it could just be a straightforward projectile. We've already seen those, we've seen Kano Eye Laser, we've seen Sonya Energy Ring, so I'm definitely not going to count it out. But I think when it comes to Sektor, the setup-based missiles tend to be, on a mechanical level, his more unique elements. But there is only space for 2 more attacks. Some kind of missile is a very safe bet, although not confirmed. What else could exist? I think if you're looking at his other tool sets, it could come down to a Flame Burner. A move that made its debut in Armageddon but really came to its own in Mortal Kombat 9 and beyond. It has certainly evolved over those games. In Mortal Kombat 9 it was more of a ranged option, whereas in Mortal Kombat X, the main purpose of the Flame Burner was to actually serve as a defensive option, a wake-up attack, a reversal, something that would push the opponent away, grant potential restand frames, or even just provide plus frames to work with due to the on-hit animation. Now, a Flame Burner cameo could also work quite well. Sektor could come in, perform some kind of flamethrower, and it could serve a specific purpose. If you're looking for some kind of wake-up attack that keeps the opponent standing to essentially steal a turn, you could absolutely see that via a cameo attack. It could provide combos, it could restand the opponent. The choices are kind of endless with this move because it is always developing. I think when you look at the previous games, Flame Burner has never been exactly the same in any of the previous titles. I'd like to see this move return and see how it can function for either combos or a defensive option. Defensive cameos definitely exist in this game. Further backing my theory that some kind of Flame Burner could exist for this character is actually if you look at the Sektor cameo model from the trailer. You'll actually notice from both Cyrax and Sektor there is some kind of wrist attachment. Now, in previous games, some kind of wrist attachment leads to a special move using that. And I'm just kind of sitting here thinking, why would they model this, and why would there be something on both of their wrists if they're not going to use them for something? Now, I gotta admit, I could be wrong on this one too, because just because it's there doesn't mean it's going to have some kind of mechanical attack. It could be used in just a throw animation for all we know. It could almost be why they fly around and how they can take off from the ground. You never know with these kind of things, but I'm just sitting here thinking, it's there, so I'm going to assume the character uses it. The question is, what moves remain? When you look at Sektor, the most memorable attacks historically are missiles, teleport, flamethrower, that's kind of it. But there have been standout buttons and other normals that have existed for the character. I think one of the key takeaway buttons that Sektor has had in the Netherrealm era is a palm attack. It was a back 1 in Mortal Kombat 9. It was a back 2 in Mortal Kombat X. Sektor essentially using the palm of his hand with some kind of blast attached to it, which has historically existed to either cancel into a combo or sometimes to simply create space. It has been shown already that some cameo attacks are not just special moves, as it were. Some characters come in and perform a normal, some kind of normal that changes things considerably. I'm looking mostly at Scorpion's pop-up that we saw from the trailer, which in Mortal Kombat 9 was his back 2. That might be an overhead, who knows? But what we do know is single attacks that are not specials do exist. Sektor could absolutely have a cameo assist where he comes in with some kind of blast that's not necessarily a special, but it does serve a purpose. A purpose maybe to create distance between yourself and your opponent. So I'm certainly not going to count out anything like that. I suppose one thing to consider as well is that there's always a scope for new attacks to come in. Scorpion having a assist that grabs the opponent and pulls them back to full screen is something that Scorpion has actually never had in a Mortal Kombat game before, but I guess that's a different topic for another time. I can't really talk about potential new moves because we don't know, and we could speculate all kinds of different attacks and be wrong about 99.9% of them, so I guess that's just something I won't cover here. Cameos are said to be a celebration of older characters, so when it comes to celebrating an older character, I definitely think that it's more likely returning moves will take priority. A character like Scorpion having a new assist is kind of a different story, as Scorpion is pretty much in every single game, so you're not necessarily going to be missing out on something because the character is already base roster and all of Scorpion's moves are already covered, right? But to close out this video, I definitely want to make the prediction that Flame Burner, Missile in some capacity, and of course a launching teleport has already been confirmed. I feel like those three moves in any combination with any kind of mechanics could be the safest bet that that's what we're going to see. I'm going to be honest, I just need to see more of this character. I really want to get my hands on the cameo, I really want to start exploring the setups and the tech, and it's going to be a long few months when it comes to the full game's release, I can tell you that much. But when it comes to a competitive sense, this is the most interesting thing for me of all. SEKTOR as the cameo is what I want to use the most. Now when it comes to playing a bit more competitive and a little bit more high level, I have no idea what base character I'm going to pick, and I think it's a lot more likely that I'm going to look at whatever character complements SEKTOR the strongest, and that's probably going to choose what my main is going to be. And that's a very, very different story to what I normally experience. We have played a few assist-based fighters in the past, but never in a Mortal Kombat capacity. I'm going into the game with the idea of SEKTOR being my main, and any other character to cover all matchups possibly in the game is where the decisions are going to come from, and I'm really excited to figure that stuff out. I appreciate you all for tuning in. There's plenty more Mortal Kombat 1 on this channel where that came from, especially now as that Lin Kuei trailer has shown us so much, not even factoring in the Scorpion breakdown of the Kombat cast, and of course the Johnny Cage breakdown, which is a different story entirely. I appreciate you all for tuning in. Stay tuned, and I will see you next time. Take care.